Trauma bonding and the narcissist. Trauma bonding is what can keep a lot of people trapped in a toxic relationship, be it with a parent, a child or a partner. This video is about the narcissist and trauma bonding. Thank you very much to all the returning subscribers. If you are new to the channel, this channel is all about the narcissist personality disorder, to give you more understanding of the people you might have been around throughout your life, how to handle yourself around those people if you cannot go no contact, and different methods to find what works for you to recover from narcissistic abuse. So a few signs that you may be trauma bonded, whether you are still within that relationship or whether you have broken free from the relationship. Number one is falling for their false promises. So when they do something to hurt you and they promise change or future fake, promise you something in the future to distract you from the pain they've caused you in the present. Falling for their false apologies. So when they come back with the "I'm sorry, but," "I'm sorry if," "I'm sorry you." Falling for their love bombing and their idolization, still living in the hope that they can recognize what they've done wrong and they will change. 2, making excuses or playing down their behavior, which is very easily done, as a narcissist will often be blame shifting their behavior onto us. They will be gaslighting us and denying our reality so that we cannot see to the true extent the situation we are in. They will downplay their behaviour and they will exaggerate ourselves. They will come up with very valid excuses that seem to be quite reasonable. We take them as reasons for their toxic behaviour, making it easy for us to excuse their behaviour. And there is no excuse. Abuse is abuse. We are often just manipulated into not seeing the extent of the situation we are in. 3, ruminating or overthinking situations in the past or situations in the future that could happen, how we could have done things differently, how we could do things differently in the future, how we could approach them better, talk to them better, help them. And 4, holding on to the hope that they will be the person they claimed themselves to be, especially when it's parents and we are living in the hope that they'll be that parent that they could possibly be at times or say they will be, yet they never truly are. Or that partner, if you have got married and you have children, living in the hope that they will want to create those memories and dreams they once sold you in the love bombing stage, yet always fail to deliver. Trauma bonding can often stem from childhood issues. If you were raised with narcissistic parents or toxic parents, and we develop an attachment system with our primary caregivers. So if our relationship with our primary caregivers was always that push-pull relationship, that's the kind of relationship we're going to accept as normal, which is far from normal. We can also develop things like object consistency, meaning if there is distance or conflict, we can still care for somebody and still want the best for that person and want to work it out and communicate with that person, which can pull us back in when people are treating us badly. It can also just be a cycle. We can enter a relationship not realizing what is truly happening until we are in too deep, to then have to crawl back out of that situation to find our feet again and recover from narcissistic abuse. So trauma can be a physical injury. Trauma can also be emotional distress. We can create that emotional bond with somebody. When you meet a narcissist and they are mirroring you like for like and selling you all your hobbies or your hopes or your dreams or your passions, everything you are interested in, they will be interested in. When your core values match up, when your beliefs match up, when you believe that they have the same loyalty and respect as you have, it creates that emotional connection. It starts to build that attachment and that object consistency with that person. Those long conversations in the beginning, they will often be listening all about you, to gather that data on you, to sell back to you exactly what you'd like to hear without realizing. And because you wouldn't do that to somebody else, you don't recognize that somebody is doing that to you, because you're coming from a place with good intentions. You don't see what they are doing, which begins to create that emotional bond with them. It releases chemicals such as oxytocin, which is addictive, and the more it is released, the more addictive it becomes. When it comes to the trauma bond, the relationship with a narcissist is often, the trauma that happens to us emotionally is often quite subtle and done over time, so we don't recognize it for what it is while we are living within that situation. The trauma bond is created when we live in ongoing cycles of emotional abuse, which a narcissist will create. They will invalidate us, they will devalue us, they will create an atmosphere, they will start arguments out of fresh air, they will cause stress within us, and then they will offer those intermittent reinforcements of play nice. And when we are living under the stress, our body is releasing adrenaline to help us cope with the stress. It's releasing cortisol, which can raise our blood pressure, which gets our heart pumping, which can cause things like anxiety. And then I'll offer those intermittent reinforcements of the idolization, the future faking, the love bombing, which releases the oxytocin, which then the body becomes chemically addicted to those highs and lows and those releases of those chemicals. The narcissist has that admiration face when they treat you so well, when they are seeking the attention because they believe they are special, because they have that arrogance around them that comes across as confidence. They can then sell us that side of them where they're seeking that excessive attention, and when we're giving them that excessive attention, they will play nice. And then when they don't get something their own way, their envious face comes out, and that sense of entitlement with them and their lack of empathy shows. So when we are in some form of emotional distress, they will withhold affection, attention and support to bring us down, to induce that stress, to release those chemicals within us. Then when they want something from us, they will pick us back up and shower us with the attention, affection and support. And it's a very confusing situation to be in. Our emotions are constantly being pulled, whether that's days, weeks or months, but they are being pulled from excitement to fear, to excitement to fear, releasing those chemicals and our brains becoming addicted. When we are raised by narcissistic parents, we can justify their behaviour. They often justify their behaviour to us, which, because we're learning from them, we can then justify it to ourselves. They will blame shift and project their faults, their weakness, their insecurities onto us, so we end up blaming ourselves. And that's the same as a relationship with a narcissist. They will find ways to justify their behaviour to get us to justify their behaviour. They will find ways to project their thoughts, feelings, insecurities onto us. They will find ways to project their behaviour onto us so that we end up blaming ourselves and not the person that's actually causing us our pain. They will intimidate in order to get us to keep secrets. They will invalidate our emotions. They will triangulate us and divide and conquer so that we fear speaking out to other people. There's lots of manipulative games a narcissist plays to keep us confused. Within those toxic games, when we are on the receiving end of their rage, of their silent treatments, of their blame shifting, of their projection, when we are in that stressful situation, our bodies can naturally go into the fight, flight, freeze and fawn response. So if we go into a fight, if we start doing those passive aggressive behaviours also, we can then class ourselves as just as bad as them. You are never just as bad as them. They have just programmed you into going into those self-defense mechanism modes, and they will exaggerate your behaviour and put it all on your behaviour. They will set the stage to cause you to react, and then they will blame you for your reactions. And as you are aware of your behaviour, you accept responsibility for your behaviour and often do your best to make it up to them for the things they actually did to you. You can go into fight, so you can go into OCD, and one of those OCDs might be doing your best to try and make the relationship work. You can go into freeze and then those dissociative behaviours, so you can start distancing yourself from loved ones and from the world, feeling confused without the narcissist gaslighting that's already sent you into feeling confused, being isolated from support. And narcissistic people will do their best to triangulate and divide people so that they can gain control over people and isolate you from support. Or we can fawn. And when we fawn, we can have those codependency where we are people pleasing. And people can, class at the codependency video up here, there's many reasons people can end up with codependency, usually within a narcissistic relationship. It's out of fear. We are acting in a codependent manner because we are walking on eggshells, because we don't want to set them off for fear of reactions if we do, as well as the trauma bond. We can also be living in a state of anxiety through all the stress that they cause. So when we are restless, when we are irritable, and they know exactly what buttons to push to get us going, to bait us into those reactions so that we blame ourselves, fall into that codependency of trying to please them. They offer those intermittent reinforcements of playing nice. We blame ourselves, or those chemicals are being released, creating a trauma bond to the very person that's making us feel all the codependent feelings, all the anxious feelings, CPTSD, confusion, hurt, pain. With CPTSD, our emotions can be all over the place, and a narcissist will chip away at those emotions. They will do something to provoke those emotions, and then they'll turn around and say, you're being too sensitive, you're overreacting. With CPTSD, you can feel empty and you can feel worthless. And with a narcissist saying, who would love you, and devaluing everything about who you are as a person, not only are you feeling worthless because of the situation you are in, you are feeling worthless because of what they are saying to you. And in those love bombing stages, when you are creating that emotional bond to them. We value their opinion. So when they are devaluing us, we are valuing their devaluation of us, not realizing that that person is toxic and it isn't coming from a caring, genuine place. They are coming to bring us down so they can raise themselves up. The trauma bond makes it feel like the pain in leaving is far worse than the pain in staying, when in reality, the pain in staying is actually far worse. It's painful to leave, but once we leave, we can start to find methods to recover from what we've been through and no longer live in that cycle of pain. The trauma bond can keep people loyal to the narcissist in the hope that we can help them change into the person they said they'd be. Being trauma bonded to somebody is never, ever your fault. Being trauma bonded is because somebody else manipulated you. You are never stupid or foolish. You were manipulated, duped, conned. They exploited your caring, empathetic skills. They exploited your kindness. They exploited your willingness to want the best for those around you. And when we are unaware that this is happening, we don't know, we just cannot see it. Once we know, we often go and we don't get in that situation again. It's very easy to say afterwards, I should have put that boundary up then. I saw that red flag. But when you didn't know what it was telling you, you don't know what it's telling you. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but often it's not until we are out of the situation that we can see the situation more clearly. Which is one method to break the trauma bond. The best way is to step away from the very person who's created that trauma bond with you. The best way is to step away from the person you feel you might be trauma bonded to. Because once we are out of the situation, once we can clear the manipulation from our brain, we can start to then think clearer and work on healing the trauma bond, and breaking the trauma bond, healing things like the symptoms that narcissistic abuse causes, like CPTSD and anxiety. We can start processing those and working through those and working through triggers one by one, and we can also start breaking that trauma bond. Acknowledging your emotions is one way. You are allowed emotions. They are here to teach us to tune into those emotions, to listen to those instincts, and even if we haven't got anything saying to the contrary, listening to our own instincts, listening to what our emotions are telling us. If we're feeling sensitive around someone, that person has most likely hurt your feelings in some way. Learning your values and your beliefs. If you wouldn't treat someone in a certain way, no longer allow someone to treat you in that way. Getting addicted to something else is also quite good, and I'm not talking alcohol or gambling or those kinds of things, and people can be addicted to those after a narcissistic relationship, and that's another thing that if you are, seek help, seek the right support, and you can break those addictions too. But getting addicted to something positive in your life, something you enjoy, something where you are contributing more than to yourself. Contribution is a natural human need, and part of the trauma bond can be formed because we believe we are contributing into helping the narcissist. So getting into a cause where we can help people when we're not going to be brought down. Growth, so learning new skills. When it comes to a narcissistic relationship, the trauma bonding can also be formed because when it comes back to that intermittent reinforcement, we might feel like we're growing again, just to go back down to where we are feeling stuck again, to grow again. So finding something, learning a new skill, learning a new hobby. Certainty, we can be trauma bonded within a relationship because we can be certain we have our parents, we can be certain we are in the relationship. So creating new routines to create some form of certainty within your life. Uncertainty within the narcissistic relationship, there's going to be an awful lot of uncertain times. And once moving away from a narcissistic relationship, there can be quite a few uncertain times. So depending on who you are as a person, now might be the time to create more certainty than uncertainty within your life, because you might already have quite a lot of uncertainty. Love and connection, so connecting with the right people. Some people find getting a pet can be very helpful to recover from the trauma bond. Getting positively addicted to something healthy within your life can help break the addiction to the toxic people in your life. And another method is, if you sit there and bring yourself out of the situation and then listen to it, or if you write it all down and then read it out loud as if that was someone you really, really, truly loved, truly cared about, telling you that all that had happened to you had happened to them, to give yourself the reality check, because narcissistic people are very good at gaslighting and taking you away from true reality. And when you've listened to it as if that had happened to someone you really cared about, what advice would you give that person? How would you try to help that person? Because often we wouldn't want that to happen to somebody we care about, yet we are more willing to accept it within ourselves. It becomes different when it's someone that we care about getting hurt, or even if it isn't someone we care about, when we realise this has been happening to somebody, we can feel the urge to help them, and we have to give ourselves that urge to help ourselves. If anyone has any advice on how they overcame the trauma bond, please do add that into the comments, because you never know who's reading that it might help. I shall add the videos into the description for CPTSD, anxiety, fight, flight, freeze and fawn, and love bombing, future faking and mirroring. There's about 6 because they all kind of tie into this video in one format or another. I might just make a playlist to try and help explain more on the different areas of the trauma bond. I'll also add the other video I did last year on the trauma bond, because people can get stuck in the trauma bonding stage. Again, if anyone has any advice, please do drop that into the comments also. I am full for one-to-one coaching. I have partnered up with BetterHelp. I shall add their sponsored link into the description also. Find the method that works for you. Just because it works for one person doesn't mean it works for you. And if it does work for one person, it might also work for you. If you don't try it, you don't know. But keep learning, keep growing, keep going in the right direction. Don't worry if you take a couple of steps backwards. Life likes to happen. Sometimes stop and just look at how far you have come, not how far you have got to go. You can do this. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.